Hello and welcome to Nightmare Masterclass. My name is David Stockdale. I'll be your host on this excursion into the dark unknown. In celebration of my recent 20,000 subscriber milestone, I thought it would be cool to do a short Q&A video. I'm not much for pleasantries, but for real, I do want to just say thank you to my subscribers and thank you to everyone who has donated to my Ko-Fi page. I wouldn't be able to keep making videos if it weren't for you people, so sincerely, thank you. Okay, let's get going. Okay, so the first question here, someone is asking about my general opinion of the recent Petscop updates. So I've only watched the new videos, there are 2 of them at this point. I've only watched those a couple of times, so I would say that my opinion right now is that I don't really know what to think. There are a few elements in the videos, especially the one that came out first, 11. There are a few elements in that one that confirm some of the things I was saying, or would appear to confirm them. And yeah, maybe I'll get to talk more about that later when I do a 5th analysis video on the topic. This next question is from Trash Panda. Hi, Trash Panda. Asking, when I create an analysis video, do I approach it like a homework assignment or like a English assignment? I would say I don't. Honestly, I don't even remember what it was like to have an English assignment in high school. I only vaguely really remember having to do papers in college. Guys, I'm almost 30, so those things are becoming more and more distant memories at this point. So I don't really think about it like that. I don't think about it like a homework assignment. I don't think about it like a paper I'm writing. I try not to even think of it in an academic sense. I more so it's just fun for me to unpack the topics I cover and show how they, expose something about society or maybe what they say about the world. Yeah, it's hard to talk about it in vague terms, but I would say my approach is not guided in an academic sense. Yeah. Someone else is asking if I would ever consider collaborating with any YouTubers. The answer is yes, I would. I just really haven't found the opportunity to do so. And I mean, right now I have a full-time job, and so everything I do for my channel is just any time that I have to spare on any given day. So I don't really have a whole lot of time to do extra stuff. So yeah. Favorite kind of sandwich? I will have to say that I am partial to Jimmy John's, and no, this is not sponsored content. I used to actually work at Jimmy John's back in college, and I would say that I am partial to their the number 2 Big John. It's a roast beef sandwich. Leave the bread in, extra mayo, add cheese. Yeah. Favorite video game? I don't know. I don't really play video games. I only recently started playing Wolfenstein after a long period of not playing any games at all, really. So Wolfenstein is pretty fun. The new Wolfenstein is, but it's just your run-of-the-mill first-person shooter. I wouldn't say it didn't blow me out of the water or anything. It's just, sometimes it's just fun to turn off your brain and kill some Nazis, right? Early bird or night owl? So, I mean, circumstances have just forced me to become an early bird. At this point in my life, I get up at 6:30 in the morning to go to work, and on the weekends I don't really sleep in because I'm so used to getting up early. But there was a period in my life where I was a night owl. Someone else is asking, another German is asking if I have any future plans with the movie, the 1982 movie The Thing or the 1980 movie The Fog. Okay, I've never seen The Thing. I know that's like a cult classic that I probably need to watch that at some point. I only vaguely recall watching The Fog in high school, and I like the movie. I just I don't really remember it very much, so I would have to revisit that if I wanted to do a video on it. But yeah, I'm not opposed to it. What is my favorite cheese? That is very easy. Havarti. Havarti cheese is the shit. It's the best. Oh, it's so good. Just like melt a little bit of that on top of like a roast beef sandwich. Man, Havarti cheese, you guys. It's so good. So here's a question I get on a semi-regular basis. Have I read the book House of Leaves? And would I be open to doing a video on it? So I have read it. I read it a couple of years ago, and I have mixed feelings about it. I would say parts of it were really engaging for me, and other parts I just couldn't get into. And I mean, that seems to be a pretty typical experience, because that book is, you know, if you haven't read that book, it changes pace, like literally it changes pace very abruptly, and it shifts between these different narratives. And so, I mean, like I said, I read it a couple of years ago, so I don't really remember everything in the book, but there was one part of it that I was really into, which was the Navidson record. And everything else just kind of, I couldn't get into it. I could not, I was not, it was not keeping my attention. And maybe that speaks more towards where I was in my life at that point in time. Or, you know, I'm not saying that it's a bad book. I think I would have to revisit it. I would have to reread the book before I could really tell you, before I could really fully articulate my feelings about it. So I'm open to doing that. I'm open to revisiting that. But you guys, covering a book on my channel would be a pretty huge undertaking, especially if I was doing an analysis of the whole book. I would be more open to maybe just doing a couple book reviews here and there. So I might do that in the future, but I have no immediate plans right now to cover House of Leaves. What was my favorite topic to cover? So that's a good one. I would really have to think about that. Petscop is the first thing that's coming to mind, but that's really just because it's like the biggest project I've ever done. I did 4 videos about Petscop, and they're all pretty long, so that is like the most prominently, at least in terms of the amount of content, that is the largest analysis I've done at this point. So I mean, maybe that tells you more than me just talking about what my favorite topic was. But pretty much anything Wham City does is always fun to cover, because those works tend to be really interesting and really dense, really just dense with different aspects of it. Yeah, so I don't know what that tells you. Someone else is asking, who is my favorite historical figure? Oh boy. So I'm just doing these questions off the cuff. I haven't scripted anything out. Honestly, I'm kind of drawing a blank here. I'm just gonna go with Karl Marx just to make anyone remotely to the right end of the spectrum angry here. So yeah, Karl Marx, my favorite. Megadeth or Metallica? I'm gonna disappoint you here and say I'm not really into metal at all. If I had to pick between those two, I would pick Metallica, just because I'm like at least know a few Metallica songs from the radio, but that's really, I don't have a very nuanced taste here. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Someone else asked, will I do an investigation on the new Petscop videos? The answer is yes, I will do it eventually. I think maybe a video in March is possible, but I can't really commit to that right now. So no promises, but it's on my radar, obviously. So I'll get to it at some point. Someone on my Curious Cat asked me a few days ago why I focus on horror, horror, scary stuff. I think the reason for that is that, like, horror there's often something at the heart of a work that is intended to scare you, that speaks to tension in society. So it really just lends itself towards that kind of analysis, good horror at least. But I don't limit myself necessarily to that. I don't even really think in terms of genre when I'm picking something to cover for my channel. Obviously, I wouldn't do like a lighthearted comedy, but yeah. So I usually cover things with a bit more of a dark edge to them. And I've Blade Runner, so science fiction, and like Eric Andre. That's not really horror. That's more like absurdist comedy, right? So I don't limit myself just to horror. But that was the initial focus of my channel. And like I said, I think that's just because it lends itself to a certain kind of analysis. Someone asked me when I first started making music and why I make original music for my videos. Okay, so the first part of your question, I started playing guitar in high school. I took lessons on a weekly basis for a couple of years, so I got a bit of a foundation there. Although I have no formal training, I can't read music. I only recently, semi-recently, like a couple years ago, started learning the keyboard and just like the basics of that. So I have a very like rudimentary understanding of music, but I know enough to make a few, poppy little things here and there. And I've only recently gotten into more synth music, just because that kind of stuff lends itself towards being just in the background while I'm talking, just to set the mood, And the reason I do that is just because it's like, it's fun to do, and it's a nice change of pace from all of the other parts of the process of making a video. You got to do research, you got to write, you got to do the recording for your voiceover, and then you got to edit the video together. So there's a whole lot of different parts of the video making process. And while I'm doing that, I kind of just make music in between here and there when I'm feeling that I need a distraction from the process of making the video. It's kind of just the way I trick my brain into, I think I'm procrastinating, but I'm actually doing something productive, right? Or at least semi-productive. So yeah, it's just a nice change of pace. Oh, someone asked what my Myers-Briggs is, and also my Enneagram. I'm an INFP as far as the Myers-Briggs goes, although the F and the P there, I'm like 50% on both of those. So depending on what day you catch me, I could be an INTJ or an INFP or any variant of those. So I'm like right on the cusp. And I only took the Enneagram once, so I don't know if this has any meaning at all, but I'm a type 5, which my understanding is that's called the investigator. So, I mean, that seems to fit at least. I think personality tests are fun, but like as far as them having like a basis on any actual, I think they only loosely map onto reality. I don't really believe that you can get much use from them other than just, screwing around. Although I think the big 5 that's supposed to be the one that psychologists and scientists actually use, right? I don't know much about it though. Somebody a while ago asked on my Curious Cat if I deal with any sort of depression or anxiety, and they were they were feeling iffy about asking that. That's fine. That's what Curious Cat is for. And that, like, you guys can ask me whatever, and if I don't feel comfortable answering it, I won't answer you. So I dealt with some pretty serious stuff towards the beginning of, towards the end of middle school and towards the beginning of high school, related to some personal stuff going on in my life that led to anxiety and depression. I had panic attacks. I had like a low, just ambient level of anxiety at all times. It was not fun, but I'm doing okay now. I was on medication in high school for a while, and I eventually got off of it, and I think I'm relatively well adjusted, all things considered, right? But also maybe I'm not the best judge of that. But yeah, I'm doing all right now. I'm fine, and I feel like that experience has given me a bit of empathy for people who are going through difficult times, whether it's with mental health issues or with a disability or anything really. I feel like that's given me a little bit of perspective on people who face challenges and how that can relate to, I don't know what I'm saying here. I feel like it's given me a sense of empathy for that sort of thing. Someone asked if I've ever been put off from covering a topic because some other YouTuber has already talked about it. Offhand, I would just say I don't really work like that. That might have been something that made me anxious when I first started doing videos, but now having done this for a while, I am fairly confident that my approach, that the result of my approach is going to be something fairly unique, and I'm not really worried about what other YouTubers do, and oftentimes I think that it's interesting to see the difference, the different results from analyzing the same work, the different interpretations. I think that is, I've said before that I think that the best works often produce a multitude of different interpretations. So it's often pretty interesting to see how that plays out in real time. It would suffice to say that I don't really concern myself with what other YouTubers are covering at any given time. The way I pick topics is I do whatever is piquing my interest at any given time. That is the sort of philosophy that guides my process. Yeah. All right, that wraps it up for this Q&A. If you enjoy my videos, please consider supporting me on ko-fi.com/Nightmare Masterclass. Any donation, large or small, is highly appreciated. Thank you for watching, and good night.